Israeli and US officials are set to hold a virtual meeting this afternoon. Let's bring in our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett. She's joining us live from Washington, D.C. It's reported that these talks will be focused on Rafah, Kimberly, but given the severity of the reports coming from Gaza today, could al-Shifa come up?
Yeah, there's no question that al-Shifa will come up. This is always, when the two governments meet, a wide range of topics that are discussed. So we know that this will be the topic that will be discussed in addition to Rafah. But it's important to note that this meeting itself almost didn't take place, given the fact that it was abruptly canceled just 1 week ago by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, following the UN Security Council vote on a resolution for a temporary ceasefire during Ramadan. And this was eventually rescheduled. But what had initially been an in-person meeting, as you point out, is now a virtual meeting, which is going to make discussion somewhat more challenging. We know that in addition to al-Shifa, what will also be discussed are the plans by the Israeli government for a potential military ground operation into Rafah, one that the United States is opposed to, given the fact that there are more than 1 million Palestinians sheltering there, told that they would be safe there, and now that is no longer the case. So the United States is looking at perhaps viable alternatives, and this is something that we know they are encouraging the Israeli government to do. So present will be the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, who will be leading this meeting, along with the Minister for Strategic Affairs on the Israeli side, Ron Dermer.
Yeah, it would be really interesting to see what comes out of that meeting, given just how much is at stake for the some 1.4 or 5 million people sheltering in Rafah. Kimberly, there are constant reports about the Biden administration's frustration with the Israeli government. But why hasn't that materialized to any real policy change?
Yeah, and you're seeing that frustration not only outside the United States, but inside the United States, even within the Democratic Party, which is the president's own party. As recently as just a few days ago, a very senior Democratic senator, Bernie Sanders, was tweeting that he was frustrated by the latest arms package to Israel, saying that the United States cannot beg Netanyahu to stop bombing civilians one day and then sending him thousands more bombs that can level entire city blocks, referencing the bombs and fighter jets package that was sent by the United States. The bottom line in all of this is that there is some recognition by Joe Biden as recently as a few days ago about the suffering. But at the same time, what has happened is that these arms packages have been previously authorized. In the case of just a few days ago, that was part of an authorization from 2008 and 2009. So some of this is the wheels of government already in motion. So the U.S. president, in some cases, his hands are tied. But in other cases, this is a position of the U.S. president and his staunch support of Israel.
Kimberly, thank you very much for that. That's our White House correspondent live in Washington, D.C.